What makes some anglers so great at fly fishing? Is it all natural talent, or is it hard work, or is it their luscious, gorgeous hair? Talent definitely plays a part, but all the great anglers I know share one thing in common. They're on the water as much as possible. They're constantly learning about and observing their quarry and then translating all that knowledge into success. This week on Untangled, we're not just looking at why these anglers are so great. No, we're also going to give you the tools you need to achieve this greatness for yourself. This is Untangled, fly fishing for everyone, presented by Ventures Fly Co. Hey everybody, welcome to it. This is Untangled, and I am your host, Spencer Durant, joined in studio by none other than the reluctant, reclusive, dare I say, rapscallion, Alex Stolz. How are you, man?
What does that mean?
Rapscallion?
Yeah.
You know what? Let me pull the definition up because I actually looked at the definition up before I used it. I wanted to make sure that I was using the correct word, and it's such a great, the definition I found. So it is defined as a mischievous person. An example sentence would be, they were the rapscallions behind the practical joke. And nothing encapsulates Alex more than mischievous.
I'm a rapscallion. What can I say?
You are. He's also the co-founder of VFC. For those who don't know, he's our in-house video editing expert. The reason all of our videos look so good is because of Alex. And then he's also the biggest fan of the fly flinger on planet Earth and perhaps even the entire galaxy at this point. I don't think that's a stretch.
Yeah, we've been shipping them out to other galaxies.
Yeah, we got Martian fly anglers. They're going to start posting some reels for us on IG, little TikTok.
Yeah, but be watching out for those.
Yeah, some Martian trout. That'd be cool if we could find trout fishing on Mars. I'd be all over that. Give me something a little different, something a little unique. Finally, no. So today's podcast is all about what it means to be a great angler and then how to become a great angler. So I want to start out with defining what we mean by great angler. We talk about somebody who catches tons of fish, who catches big fish, who catches tons of big fish. What is a great angler? And if you don't mind, Alex, let's start with you. When we say great angler, when that term comes across, what does that conjure up in your mind? What do you think a great angler is?
Well, we've been thinking about this for a while, right?
Yeah.
Leading up to this podcast. And so in my pondering, I feel like a lot of times we think of greatness as like black and white. He's either a great angler or he sucks. He or she. And I really want us to think about greatness as far as becoming a great fly angler as a continuum. So it's not this destination that you're reaching. It's more of like, how great are you on a scale of like 0 to infinity?
Okay.
Because I would consider you a great angler from my definition that I've come up with.
Well, that's very kind of you. I don't know if I would consider myself one, but
and so here's the definition. Here's what I came up with.
All right, what you got?
Someone who can go to any river, new or familiar, at different times of the year, and consistently catch fish.
Did you look at my definition before you wrote yours down?
I did not.
Because my definition that I wrote down is someone who feels confident and comfortable on any body of water. They've got the tools to succeed and know how to apply them, even if they still get skunked.
See, and I did read through your definition before the show, and I actually didn't agree with the skunk part.
Really?
Yeah.
You think great angler doesn't get skunked?
I think... I don't know. But that's if you're thinking about it in black and white, right?
I still get skunked.
I would say greater anglers don't get skunked. Like...
That's why I'm not a great angler, because I still get skunked. That's my whole point.
But there's not great and not great. It's like, how great are you?
Yeah, and when I say, like, even if they still get skunked, they have the tools to succeed and know how to apply them. So they know what to do. But sometimes, no matter what you do, the fish just aren't going to cooperate. And I mean, there's the upper echelon in this sport of people who can catch fish out of a storm drain. right? They can go to any ditch next to the road and catch a tarpon out of it. And those guys, they're not mortal. I'm convinced.
I would say they're the top scale of that continuum, right? Like it's like, how great are you? There's the guys that can catch fish out of a storm drain.
But for us Joe Schmoes, us average guys, I think it's fair to say that, even if you get skunked, if you went out there, you felt comfortable and confident in your presentation, you didn't feel completely out of your depth, and the fish just didn't cooperate, I would still consider that a level of it, because you didn't. And this is something I've tried to hammer a lot on the show lately, is that you don't have to be excellent. You don't have to always catch a bunch of fish for the day to be a success. And sometimes the fish just don't cooperate with you. No matter how great your presentation is, no matter how great your casting is, sometimes the fish just aren't going to cooperate. And there's nothing you can really do to change that.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, think about the really tough days that we've had this year, where it was a struggle to get fish in the boat.
But we got fish in the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barely, by the skin of our teeth.
To me, it almost feels like false confidence if you feel comfortable out on the river and you're not catching fish. Like, you shouldn't feel comfortable then, because you're doing something wrong.
So even if I think, okay, well, I know what to do and I'm doing it.
But you don't know what to do because you're not catching fish.
Well, I do. The fish are just being dumb.
And to me, see, that's where it's like, maybe you've reached your level that you need to push yourself beyond in order to catch those fish, and then you'd become even greater.
See, I think I could buy that. That's why I wanted Alex on the show today, because this is when you're going to talk about a topic like this is the sort of back and forth that you need, I think, to really make it make sense. So, do you got anything more we want to say on that topic before we move on, of just what constitutes greatness?
Well, let's like go through the definition a little bit and dive into each part. So, someone who can go to any river, new or familiar. So, if you could go to a river you've never been to and catch fish, I would consider you greater. Like, you would start moving up that spectrum, right? Or that continuum. And I guess, why do you think that is? Why do you think you'd be moving up the continuum towards greatness if you can go to a river that you've never been to and catch fish?
Well, if you can do that, it proves that you're not just the skills you've developed to this point already aren't just muscle memory, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, where you go to your local creek and if you fish this one stretch of river, you're going to pull a fish out of it somehow.
That same hole that always has a fish in it.
Yeah. You're not going to run into that. So if you can broaden your horizons enough to where you go somewhere and you can find the fish, then I would agree with that. Yeah. Cool. That makes you greater.
And then at different times of the year.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing. Like, if you're peak mayfly hatch in spring versus the dog days of summer in August, but you can catch fish at both times of the year, to me, that feels like you're leveling up. You're going towards greatness. Yeah.
Or you're just on a legendary fishery like the Henry's Fork, where you can catch fish no matter what on the Henry's, right?
Why'd you have to bring the Henry's into this, bro?
We're going to do, spoiler alert, there's going to be a podcast in the future about the Henry's Fork, so stay tuned for that.
Spencer's a big fan.
It's gonna rock the fly fishing world on its axis and knock it right off.
Yeah. So I think when this whole episode, when we're talking about greatness, that's what we should be thinking about, is consistently catching fish in new environments and new conditions.
Yep, I agree with that. And apparently not blaming the fish when you're getting skunked, I guess.
That actually leads into one of my... So again, thinking about this greatness and what makes a great angler and how you can level up your skills and become better.
Yeah.
I think one of the attributes of a great angler is being willing to fail and not blaming the fish, not blaming the conditions, really being able to like take what happens and look at yourself and how you can become better. I think that
but sometimes it's not you though. Sometimes it's not.
I disagree with that.
So you're out fishing and a flash flood happens.
Oh my.
That's you? That's your fault?
Yeah. Put on a squirmy wear, man.
Oh my gosh. Maybe this was a mistake. He's not taking it seriously, is he, folks? No, I agree with the principle. Kidding aside, I agree with the principle. Yeah, you do have to look at yourself. I guess I take a much more laid back approach to fly fishing than I think the majority of people do, because I've been lucky to spend so much time on the water in my life that if I don't catch anything, it's frustrating, but it's not cause for a lot of introspection. And I have talked about that on the show where I've noticed in the last couple of years, I'm not really pushing too much. I'm not really forcing myself to work through situations sometimes. And that's just because where I live and what we do for a living, I can just go home if it's not going well and watch football and then go back the next day and figure it out. So I recognize that as a failing of mine and probably not representative of what a lot of folks go through.
And I feel like the reason I have this perspective comes down to I played college golf. I love golfing. That's my hobby. That's what I do for fun when I'm not fishing. And golf forces you to look at yourself as like you're the problem.
Yeah.
Like, there's this golf course. It doesn't, like, everybody else is playing the same golf course. Everybody else is playing the same clubs, same golf balls. It's like, it's you. If you play bad, it's you. And so
it's not the clubs. It's not the weather.
No. I mean, sometimes the weather can play a role, but
what if you get a janky
everybody
ball?
else is playing in the same weather. And so if you're playing in a tournament, like, it comes down to you and your score, and like, it's on you. And so I feel like I take that perspective to the river a lot of times, where it's like, well, I didn't catch that fish. It's my fault. And now I got to figure out how to be better next time. And hopefully I can level up.
And I just kind of tip my cap to the fish and say, hey, good job. Appreciate you, buddy.
Which we both, and I think that's why we enjoy fishing together, is like we both push each other a little bit, where it's like, you kind of chill me out. You chill me out sometimes when there is that fish that has refused every single fly, and I've been through my entire fly box, and you're like,
and we're on a filming schedule. I'm like, dude, we gotta go. And he's like, no. And I'm like, dude, it's just a fish. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah,
a lot. No, I agree with that though. So speaking of that, let's get into the one skill that all the great anglers we know share, and this is really the crux of the discussion, I think, which is, every angler I know who I would consider great, they are on the water as much as possible. And that is the one skill, the one attribute they're able to do, is they spend more time on the water than anybody else. And if you don't have that time on the water, you're never going to have the opportunities to build the skill set you need to succeed and to continue on this continuum of greatness. And just to illustrate that a little bit, again, I'm not putting myself out there as a great angler. I would consider myself right about average. I can catch some fish. I blame them when they don't cooperate. But that's really, I'm right in the middle. But
you're on a journey towards the higher end of the greatness continuum.
Well, I am after today because I've been called out on it. I was fine, but now apparently I got to work on it. No, I had the opportunity in my late teens, early 20s. I drove a Camaro and I lived in my grandma's basement. So it was peak male experience right there. And I spent 300 days a year on the water because I had...
Which, you just have to put that in perspective. 300 days a year. How many days is that a week?
Oh, I think I did the math. It's...
Let's do some math.
If you didn't fish on the weekends, that's 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, times 52. That's 100 and something days.
104.
So it's already like 6 days a week or something like that, I think, to get to 300.
Yeah.
Is it about 6 days a week?
It's like 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah, so it's about 5 to 6 days a week. I was out on the water.
That's nuts.
It is. It was ridiculous. I don't know how I didn't burn out on it.
I I personally think I would burn out if I fished 5 to 6 days a week.
Then I kind of did a couple of times.
I mean, so 300 days a year, was it like all day, like
no,
afternoons?
But it would be at least a couple hours for every day, and I'd be out on the water. And if I hadn't spent all that time fishing, I would not be the angler that I am today. I would not feel confident going to all the places that we get to go to. We get to travel all around the West and fish these cool spots. And fly fishing really, it's something that requires quite a bit of repetition to get good at. If you want to succeed, you've got to build the muscle memory for your cast. There's the repetition of matching hatches, of understanding what happens during a mayfly hatch and how to react to that, how the fish are going to react to that. The setting hooks on really long casts with really long leaders, that's not something you get to do all the time throughout the year. It's something that is a short window throughout the year. So you've got to build a lot of repetition in that to figure it out.
I think one of the best examples is landing big fish.
Yeah, that's another one.
Like if you have only hooked into like 2 big fish in your life.
Yeah.
And they have broken off.
Yeah.
You get another big one on the line and your
freaking
heart
out.
is pumping. Like
everybody on the river knows you have a big fish at that point. The grizzly bears in the trees waiting to pounce on you, they know. They're like, this dude's crazy. I'm going to eat him. Get mad human disease from him. But yeah, and the only way to hone those skills really is when you're out fishing. The only skill you can practice when you're not on the water, though, is casting. But even then, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
You can work on distance, you can work on accuracy, but it's not the same as actually being on the water and casting. So if you're not out on the water and if you're not spending as much time as you can out there, then it's going to make it hard. So consider this your VFC endorsed time to sell your house, empty your bank account, buy a van, and go camp on the Madison for the rest of your life. But definitely please do it in Montana, though, or Utah. There's no fish in the rest of the western states. Might even the Delaware River is really good for this, too, if you really just want that trout bum lifestyle. But definitely stay away from Wyoming. Alex is censoring himself. And now I'm worried.
So what else makes a great angler?
No, all joking aside, I know it's not always possible to get that time out on the water.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone that wants to spend more time fishing, but like job, family, maybe other hobbies or like yard work? You know anything about that?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Because, I mean, fishing 5 to 6 days a week.
No, it's not reasonable for people.
Even 2 days a week for a lot of people is tough. And
that's probably where I am. I think I'm 2 to 3 days a week right now.
Yeah.
With where I am. But
I guess what advice would you give someone that only has maybe 1 day a week or 1 day every other week that wants to continue their way up the greatness continuum?
Don't get lost in the weeds. That was going to be my other point that I was going to bring up, but I think it fits in right here. And when I say don't get lost in the weeds, I mean, the great anglers I know, they're on the water all the time, but then they're also not obsessing over every minute detail of their on the water experience. And you see that a lot with beginners where you're worrying about, did I tie that knot correctly? Do I need to redo my whole rig? Or do I need this fancy new tippet that just came out that this company released? Or is my 7X leader actually 7X? I knew a guy who didn't believe that his leaders were actually 7X, so he had his micrometer to measure them when he bought them, and the ones that weren't 7X he would return because he wanted the ones that were truly 7X. And I admire that level of crazy, but at the same time, how is that putting fish in the net? How is that developing skills?
You know who's a great example of this?
Who?
Ryan Kelly.
Yeah, that's true.
Like when we were
fishiest guy I know.
Super fishy guy. Yeah, definitely the fishiest guy we know. And we were out with him in February in his boat. If you guys don't know, his name's Green River Fly Fisher on Instagram. Yep. He has a lot of really cool fisherizing footage. Check him out. But we were out with him in his boat, and there was a midge hatch going on, and me and you were like, yeah, so 6X and a size 18 Matt's midge, and like maybe we need to go down to 7X and size 22. And he's like, just put a size 14 Griffith's Gnat on.
Yep. And it worked. And it worked crazy.
And same thing with, I'll use like a size 20 zebra midge. He's like, tie on a size 14 pheasant tail.
Yep.
Caught fish. Like, he knows what works, and he doesn't get lost in the weeds, like what you're saying.
He's a master of putting flies in front of fish and making them look real. Don't get lost in the weeds and stuff. Put your flies in front of fish, make them look real. Focus on those things, and that's going to carry you more than anything. Because those 300 days a year that I spent on the water for a couple of years, I can't tell you how many of those afternoons on the river was more time re-rigging because I was convinced my fly was bad. Or I was getting tangles because my casts were bad. If I'd actually spent that time looking at my drift and looking at my presentation and focusing on that stuff, I might actually be a great angler now. I might actually be someone who doesn't blame the fish when the day doesn't go my way. So it's all about keeping your eyes on what matters, and that's why I harp this message of put your flies in front of fish and make them look real. That's why that's the motto of this show, is because that's all that matters. And you focus on that stuff, that will level you up far more quickly than anything else you care to do. So I guess that's my spiel.
Does there ever come a point when diving into the weeds makes sense?
Yeah, 100%. I think once you're comfortable enough to catch fish in different locations and you feel like you've got a handle on hatches in your area and you've got a handle on reading water, and you feel comfortable with that, you can go to 2 or 3 different creeks in your area and catch fish. Then, yeah, I don't want people to not go nuts on stuff. I want people to enjoy it. Go down the Euro nymphing rabbit hole, go down the streamer rabbit hole, but definitely build that broad base of knowledge first where you are a competent angler, and then start exploring the other stuff. Because if you just become a streamer angler, then you're not going to have the skills you need for fishing dry flies, and vice versa. If all you ever do is dry flies, you never experience streamer stuff, you're not going to have that foundation of knowledge to help you throughout the year. So being able to do everything at an okay level and then picking something to specialize in, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, so it's like if we're working our way up the continuum, it's like fundamentals are on the left side, and then like streamers, Euro nymphing, diving into the weeds, we start to work our way up towards the other side of the continuum.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I think I'm starting to get there with some of the hatches where I live. We've got a trico hatch, your favorite bug in the world. We've got some really early bluewing hatches that are fun to dissect.
Yeah, I think if I can master the trico hatch, I've hit my peak.
You might retire at that point.
We might retire.
You might retire.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll never retire. No, but I'm kind of diving into the weeds on those a little bit and just trying to learn more about those bugs and trying to really get nitpicky about matching those hatches, because I enjoy that quite a bit, and that's what I find myself drawn to more than anything else is matching those very difficult dry fly hatches. That's what I want to do more of. So that's where my into the weeds experience is going right now.
That's cool.
So is there anything else you want to add to this discussion before we move on today?
Yeah, there's one more attribute or skill, whatever you want to call it, that I know has really helped me level up my skills, and I really do feel like it's something that would help people, especially if you're not able to get out on the water a lot or if you feel stagnant. And we're going to call it being stubbornly optimistic.
I think I know where you're going with this.
So just an example. The other day, Spencer and I were out and we're filming a new video, and we got done early. So we decided to analyze our options, where we could go, what we could do. We were out in central Utah, just a lot of cool spots around us. And we were like, well, we could go fish a couple of these lakes that are just right off the road, or we could hike into this spot that's a mile off the road that's a little more secluded. And Spencer's been talking up this place for a while, and so it excited. All you got to say is that there's big fish, and I'm in. But it is a more difficult time of year where the moss.
Yeah, the moss is out of control.
Is an issue in these high mountain lakes.
This one in particular, it's so bad.
So the whole way, we're driving down the road. There's like a lake on the left that's right off the road, and I'm like, nah. Next lake, no way. We're going to this other lake.
Going to the one with the big ones in it.
I was stubbornly optimistic. I'm like, I don't care if there's moss. Spencer also told me it was really hard to fish from shore.
I was right about that, wasn't I?
You're 100% right about it. But again, I stubbornly optimistic, right? And this happens a lot, I feel like, where I probably shouldn't be as optimistic as I am. When it comes to, there will be like a fish rising in a difficult situation where there's probably no chance I'm catching the fish, but I try anyways.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying is like, I have this positive feedback loop where it's happened so many times where I just step out onto the limb and I give it a try and something good happens and not only something good happens, but it's a challenge and I push myself and I surprised myself with, I actually was able to do that and I leveled up. And so we ended up hiking into this lake and the moss was terrible. And
there were grizzly bears everywhere.
Yeah, big cows. They look like grizzly bears. It was kind of scary.
Yeah, they did for a minute. Yeah, they were.
But I ended up circling around the entire lake, trying to find an opening in the moss.
And there's no trail around this lake, and it's all the thorny bushes that's all around it. So it's really pleasant to walk around.
I fell flat on my face at one point. I bruised my leg. It was awesome. But I found this one spot. There wasn't any moss. Threw my flies out there. Caught a little cutthroat. I was pretty stoked on that. And then I kept circling around the lake, and then I saw the biggins.
Yeah.
Rising.
The Muy Grande fish.
Rising. And Spencer had told me before that he also had never caught a fish on a dry fly in this lake.
Yeah, I haven't. I still haven't to this day.
So I'm like, well, not only am I going to catch fish in this lake from shore, I'm going to catch it on a dry fly. But there was a problem.
What was that?
They were out there like 50, 60 feet. And, high mountain lakes, there's not a lot of casting room.
No.
So, again, stubbornly optimistic. I circled around to another point in the lake and I started just chucking these super long casts as far as I possibly could. I didn't catch one on dry fly though.
No, you didn't. But you got that nice cutty at the end.
But I was stubbornly optimistic. It was getting late. The sun was going down. Those fish were still rising.
And we did not want to hike out with those feral cows. We might have got trampled.
So I tied on just the balanced leech with an Indy out there, and I ended up catching a 19-inch cutthroat. And so that positive feedback loop. Again, it just keeps coming back. Like if I push myself to just try it, sometimes good things happen.
So push yourself to try it.
Yeah.
Spend time on the water.
Yep.
Don't get lost in the weeds. And I would agree with you that that's what every great angler I know does. And that's what you got to do if you really want to pull it off. That's it's
a pretty good roadmap.
I don't think we could simplify it any more than that. And we've tried. We've thought about this topic a ton, and I just don't think there's a way to simplify that. So hopefully you found something useful in that. And if you've got any other tips that you think might help for greatness, if you agree with our definition, or if you disagree with it, don't bother with a comment.
No, let us know.
No, I know I'm being facetious.
Especially if you disagree with Spencer.
Well, I mean, nobody does. This is an award-winning show for a reason. All right. No, definitely let us know. Let's have some conversation. We talked about that a lot on last week's show about dialogue between anglers. It's important. So let's talk about it. Drop those comments. But certainly don't go anywhere. I don't think you're not going anywhere, are you, Alex?
No, I'm here.
No, he's sticking around. So we are going to jump right into the Q&A section of this week's show. And every week on Untangled, we spend half the show directly answering questions from listeners and viewers just like yourselves. So if you've got a fly fishing question that you would like answered, you can go ahead and drop that. There's a link to do that in the show notes or right here on the screen if you're watching the video podcast. Our first question this week comes to us from Caleb from Kentucky. Writes in and says, I've watched and listened to several of your videos and podcasts. The information in them has been invaluable in helping me start my fly fishing journey. I often hear or see you reference stealth when approaching low, clear water. Most of the discussion is about your height and not silhouetting yourself by crouching or crawling when approaching the water. Do you think that the color of your clothing also contributes to the fish being able to see you? For example, I fish small streams with heavily wooded banks. I don't find myself often having to crouch because the trees provide cover, but I feel like when I have on earth tone or neutral colors, I seem to catch more fish than when I wear, for instance, a white t-shirt. Do you think this is due to my choices of clothing and the fish being able to see me on the bank, or do you think it's just a coincidence? Thanks for any help. Caleb, it's a great question, and I've heard this theory a lot. Some folks put a ton of stock into it, enough so that Simms, the wader maker, they even made their river camo waders for a while. Do you remember those?
No.
Dude, they were so ugly. That was one. Simms has made quite a few mistakes. That was one of the biggest they ever made was river camo. It looked so bad. And it didn't sell well because they don't sell them anymore. Just awful. A lot of their other waders are great, but that, it still makes me cringe every time I think about the river camo. I personally have not noticed a big difference with this. If I'm wearing earth tones versus brighter colors, on the occasion when I do wear the brighter colors, because a lot of my stuff is earth toned, I haven't noticed a difference. In fact, just 2-3 days ago, I was out fishing, and I hadn't planned on going fishing that day. I just got done with some work around the house, and I just got in the truck and left. I needed some time away, and I was wearing one of our bright green Squala and VFC hoodies. And I mean, that's not earth toned at all. It's pretty vibrant. And I had one of the best days on the creek that I've had all year. I got tons. I kept texting Alex about it. Like, dude, it's so good. You should be here. And he's like, I'm at a bougie golf club. I can't. And no, but it was really amazing fishing. So the simple but not very helpful answer here is that I really don't think it matters. I don't have the personal experience to say that it does, but Caleb, you obviously have an experience that makes you think otherwise. So I would err maybe on the side of your own experiences, but what do you think, Alex?
I don't think color matters that much. It's contrast.
Okay, I can get behind that.
So let's say you're wearing let's say you're wearing a white shirt and you're up against a dark background. I think that would make a difference. Same if you're the skyline, it's like light blue skyline, but you're wearing like a black shirt. I think that's what's going to make a difference because the fish can see the contrast a lot better than I don't know if they can distinguish the colors of like,
especially above the water.
Yeah, like you're wearing a red shirt up against a green tree, like maybe. But if it's light versus dark, I think that's what makes the difference.
Yeah, I could buy that. And the creek that I was fishing when I was wearing the bright green shirt, there's a lot of bright colors in that creek area too. It's really light sandstone cliffs, the really bright juniper in there. So that could make sense on why it didn't affect that day. So
yeah,
I think
that's
I
what
could buy
makes
that.
sense to me.
So anything else you want to add on this question?
No.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Caleb, for sending that one on in. Damos from Wyoming has our next question, writes in and says, I live in a certain part of the state where there is a ton of wind year round. Because of this, I usually end up casting like garbage or hooking myself, slapping the water harder than intended and messing up my drifts. What are some ways to get around this issue? What are your experiences with this? Well, number one, you're going to want to go on realtor.com. Find yourself a nice little casa in Idaho or Montana. The wind never blows in either of those states. No, I'm kidding, of course. The wind is, you say, a part of the state where the wind blows. Okay, well, that's the whole state, right? It's just always windy in Wyoming. some days it really is too windy to fish. We agree with that, Alex?
Yep. There was a day, what was it? A couple months ago where I was out and I was in our boat and I was trying to row down the river and the wind was pushing me upriver.
Yeah.
It was absolutely miserable. There was no way I was like, every time I tried to throw a cast, it would just land behind me.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah. No. So some days it will just be too windy to fish. The cutoff, if you want an actual number, if the sustained winds are supposed to be about 25 miles an hour with gusts over 30, that's where I call it for myself. Sustained winds around 20 usually is manageable. It's not very pleasant. But if those gusts are getting 25 to 30, I call it a day and don't bother because it really is miserable at that point.
Especially if you're trying to fish dry flies or something delicate, it's impossible. Nymph rigs, because you can like add split shot or indicators and heavy flies, sometimes you can fling them enough through the wind.
Emphasis on fling at that point, yeah.
Where it can work, but it's still miserable. It'll blow your indicator all over the place, unnatural drift.
Yeah. But when you're dealing with wind, when it's still not too windy to fish, the trick with that is you got to use the double haul, and then you want to keep your loops as tight as possible. Now, the double haul is just a real simple casting technique where you pull down on the line in your line hand, on your back cast, and then on your front cast. And what that does is it increases the line speed. So the line starts moving a lot quicker. That tightens up the loops. That helps you add some distance, a little bit more power to your cast. And tightening up the loops is also important because a tighter loop is going to cut through the wind a lot better than a wider loop. So if your loops are big and open, the wind's just going to catch them and open them even more. But if you tighten those loops up by using that double haul, increasing your line speed, adding weight like Alex talked about, that'll help tighten the loops up sometimes. But if you can get those loops nice and tight, then they're going to cut through the wind a little bit better. It's still going to be a slog. It's going to be a chore, but you're going to be able to cut through the wind.
And something that I learned a couple years ago was the difference it can make in a 5-weight versus a 6-weight in the wind.
Yep.
Like if you step up your rod, makes it so much easier. It's just more powerful. It's able to cut through the wind a lot more than your standard 5-weight.
Or trying to fight the wind with a 4-weight or something like that. You just don't have the mass to really cut through the wind at that point. So you can also try sidearm casting too instead of overhead. You can go to the side with the rod and move the rod side to side. That's
sounds
worked.
Like a tangle waiting to happen.
It can be. But double haul, keep tight loops. That's going to be your best friend during the wind. So anything else you want to add, Alex? Wonderful. Jeremy from North Carolina has our next question, writes in and says, I'm going to 2 new cities for me on work trips this fall out west, Idaho Falls and Seattle. And I want to do some fishing without paying a guide $500 plus the gratuity. I figure I can bring a rod and flies on the plane, wet wade, and rent a car to drive/hike to fishing spots and stay low budget. But how do I find good fishing spots? I don't want to waste my precious half day or day going place to place and finding no fish. I can call a few fly shops for advice and read some online forums, but what else do you recommend? Well, Jeremy, honestly, it's going to be your best bet. And I'd put a lot more focus and weight on what you hear from the fly shops than I would the online forums. They can be full of people like me who just put in false information just to lead people astray. Just, oh yeah, I'm going to tell the guy there's giant hogs, huge cutthroat in the Low Provo. Yeah, definitely go fish the Low Pro when you're in Utah. That's the fishery to hit. No. There are people who do that. I'm not one of them anymore. No. Seriously, though, forums can be good, but fly shops, they've got the most up-to-date, they've got the most honest information. In my experience, I'd put a lot of emphasis on what they have to tell you. But the other key to remember here is that good fishing spots are going to be good fishing spots regardless of where you're at, okay? So the same kind of water that you're looking for back home in North Carolina, your riffles, your runs, your pools, that's what you want to look for when you're out here. It's that same type of water. And if you're unaware of what the different water types are, if you don't know what those are, you don't know how to read water, we've actually got a free ebook on reading water. It'll help you pick fish up in any river, even if you've never fished there before. I will throw a link to that down in the show notes or right here on the screen if you're watching the video podcast and want to snag a copy of it. But definitely remember that, again, good fishing spots are good fishing spots. You're looking for that same type of water regardless of where you're fishing. So and Alex, you've done tons on finding places to fish. So what are your thoughts on this, on Jeremy's question here?
I think if you really don't want to fail, like when I go fish new spots, I feel like there's a side of me that, I want to go catch fish, but I'm also okay with not catching fish sometimes because it's more about the adventure for me, like getting out there and experiencing something new. But it sounds like, who was this? Jeremy. It sounds like Jeremy wants to almost guarantee that he's going to catch fish, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Especially, it's kind of like the guys that fish 5 to 6 times a week versus the guys that can only fish once a month or something. They want to make sure that they go out and catch a fish and have fun. And I just think it comes down to, if you want to guarantee that you're going to catch a fish, you got to put in a lot of research.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to need to look up a lot of stuff online, have a plan, like dive into the rabbit hole, have a plan B, have a plan C, have a plan D, go visit every single fly shop. Like, just do so much volume that it would be unreasonable that you're not going to catch a fish.
Yeah.
If that's really how you feel and you want to make the most of it, that's what you got to do. You got to put in the work.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's very rare that you'll just show up to a place and get lucky. As much as we would love for that to be the thing, that just doesn't happen all that often.
And it also depends on where you're at to tie this all together. Depends on where you're at in your fly fishing journey. If you're further along in the greatness continuum, you can go to any river and catch fish. But if you're kind of new and you don't have that foundation built, it's going to be very hard for you to go to a river that you know nothing about and be able to catch fish.
Yeah, it is.
So as you keep leveling up your skills, you won't have to do as much research. You'll just be able to go there and identify the water that's going to hold fish and be able to pick up a few rocks and be like, that's a mayfly. I know what flies imitate mayflies, and I know how to nymph, and
you'll be golden.
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing I wanted to comment on this for you, Jeremy, though, is you mentioned wet wading in the fall. Could be a risky proposition, might be too cold. So definitely look at either renting waders or packing some. A lot of fly shops do wader rentals, though, so that's probably something you could swing, but still.
At what point do you stop wet wading? Like, what's the air temp?
I don't really know. I just stop wet wading when it's too cold.
Yeah.
And I know that's not very helpful. But if I walk out of my house and I'm going from my house to my truck and I think it would be too cold to wet wade today, I don't do it.
Smart.
I guess that's not helpful at all.
What was the temp on our last trip? Because the trip before that, we were wet wading. And this one, we decided to put on waders.
I think the air temp was in high 40s, low 50s. Does that sound about right? Because it was windy enough that it was...
The wind also plays a factor.
Yeah, the wind chill was coming in.
Because if it's sunny and 50...
Yeah, you probably get away with it.
You might be able to do it.
And we could have gotten away with wet wading the first day because that creek wasn't deep at all.
But that water was freezing.
It was. The second day, we definitely couldn't have gotten away with wet wading.
No way.
Because it was freezing cold and it was about knee deep.
And we were earlier in the morning, so it was colder. Yeah.
And it had rained, all that stuff. So it really... Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
Trial and error.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. And then the last thing on this, you can also look up stocking reports, fishing reports on state wildlife websites. And that's a really good place to start some research. Don't use it for everything, but it's a really good place to start to see what places have fish and what places don't.
And I did a full video on our YouTube channel about how to find places to fish. And I walked you through the exact step-by-step process that Spencer and I follow to find new places and make sure you're going to have success. Yeah. So Spencer can link that in the show notes.
or right here on the screen if you're watching the video podcast.
That's so fancy.
Yeah, it's really nice that you showed me how to do that. Because the reason the videos look good is because of Alex. I keep telling everybody this. Oh, well, that wraps up the Q&A section for this week of the show.
Our favorite part. Let's go.
The Live Real Life moment?
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Every week we end the show by sharing a story and a picture from folks who are out there on the water living real life. This is the whole reason VFC exists, is to help y'all have these unforgettable experiences and enjoy yourselves out on the water. So if you've got a live real life moment that you would like to share, there's a link to send those in down in the show notes or right here on the screen if you're watching the video podcast. And this week's live real life moment comes to us from Joe. My wife and I took a trip to Jackson, Wyoming to get away from the hustle and bustle of our everyday life. While doing some research, I discovered the Snake River flows right through Jackson. I had to fish it. I looked up areas to fish it, only to discover that a huge section of it was closed to fishing in the winter. I thought the most practical and safe spot would be right at the start of the tailwater at Jackson Dam. I tied up a few zebra midges and tossed my net and sling bag in my checked bag. I got questioned about my fly rod through TSA. The lady thought the burl wood insert was liquid in a glass canister. I don't even know. When we landed in Jackson, the snow was coming down pretty good. I did not even know the Tetons were right there until the next day. We decided it would be a little cheaper to stay in Victor, Idaho. What we didn't realize was we would have to take Wyoming 22 through the Teton Pass. My first time in the snow. That was an experience I'll never forget. That next morning came and we stopped by a hot spring, took a dip, and then spent the morning shopping in Jackson. I stopped into High Country Outfitters to get my one-day fishing license. The guy working the fishing section was one of the most helpful and nicest guys. I told him where I was going and what I was going to use. He thought for a second, then grabbed a puck and said, "I'm going to give you 3 flies to try." They imitated the local crayfish, and he told me exactly how to fish the dam, starting further downstream in the shallows using my zebra midge, working up close to the deep pool, and using the streamer crayfish. On the way to the dam, while I was daydreaming about catching a Snake River cutthroat, my wife interrupted out of nowhere, saying, "The people that work at fly shops are the nicest people." I responded, "It's the best community in the world." At the dam, I saw the trees were shading the whole side of the river, so we walked back across the dam and trekked down to the bottom in 2 feet of snow. But there I was, out west, in the famous Snake River. Unfortunately, everything else was a total fail. The sun was low in the sky and upstream, so I couldn't make out any structure on where to cast, and about 3 drifts in, my guides were completely iced. I couldn't even strip any line in. I looked at my wife on the bank. She looked miserable and cold. I looked down the river to where 2 golden-eyed ducks were swimming around. I stood there for a few minutes just taking it all in. The ducks splashing, the clear water flowing, the rocks below me, the snow on distant mountains, the roar of the water coming out of the dam, the snow-covered pine trees, the raven cawing in the distance, the fact that I left my phone in my jacket pocket and it was now getting wet. No, I did not catch my dream cutthroat, but that's okay. Sometimes Spencer is right. There are just no fish in Wyoming. So I took out my slightly wet phone, dried it off, lifted my rod back up, and snapped this picture. Walking back to the bank, I thought to myself, it isn't always about catching fish, although I would have loved it if I did. Sometimes you needed to stop and take a look around you. Enjoy the moment, enjoy the process, enjoy the experience. Joe, that was a fantastic live real life moment. I think that encapsulates what we try to accomplish with this part of the show, doesn't it?
Amen. That was live real life in a nutshell.
It was fantastic. Thank you for sending that in, Joe. Appreciate you. And with that, folks, we're going to end the show this week. Thank you so much for being here with us, listening and watching to the show all the way to the end. Helps us more than you'll ever know. And if you want to help us out even more, if you want me to really grow that luscious beard we all know I'm capable of, definitely tell everybody else about VFC. Spread the word, spread the gospel of VFC as far and wide as you can. And rate and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to it. Those help us out a ton as well. And until next week, get out on the water, enjoy yourselves, have some fun, and go live real life.